Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. We have some amazing organizations in our own community that rescue animals. And there was even, it was kind of a horrible story this morning about a guy who got killed by one of his, oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the bird, but it's a...
cassowary, you said.
Cassowary.
Cassowary.
It's like an ostrich. But this isn't really about the animals so much as it is about the management of a zoo, the business behind running a zoo, huh?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Right? Isn't that interesting? You never think about it when you go to see a zoo. And as we got older, we realized that we weren't being really fair to the animals. We were giving them these little tiny spaces, right? Mm-hmm. I was in a Chinese restaurant, and they had these gigantic fish in this fish tank. It's like, okay, they can turn around and that's about it.
Yeah.
So that's the equivalent of putting me on a bed and saying, that's it, you can't go anywhere. All right, let me turn around.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
unless you have a gigantic sized bed.
It would have to be like the size of, half of Manhattan, I think, to satisfy me. All right, let's see. We have on the phone Beth Branning. She is the former Chief Strategy Officer and the Director of Vision, Innovation, and Strategy of the San Diego Zoo. I have never been to the San Diego Zoo, but I have been there virtually.
Oh, my.
Do you remember that
I do.
That game we used to have?
Yes, I do. I remember that.
The book is called The Call. The strategic plan that empowered San Diego Zoo Global to lead the fight against extinction. Let's find out about this. This is an interesting one. Beth, you have so many things we want to ask you. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
And where are you? Are you in San Diego?
I'm actually in Phoenix today. I'm located in San Diego, but I'm here in Phoenix working with the Zoo and Aquarium Association.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for being on the air. We just knowing what little we know about you, I have so many questions. So, I want to be fair to the book, but I got to ask you about the animals first. Do you work at the zoo because you have a passion for animals?
I'm actually no longer at the zoo, but I did work there for many years because of that exact reason. I care a lot about animals, and I really wanted to do the most I could to help them, and working at San Diego Zoo Global really helped me to do that.
Okay, so I think I have a way, and you can direct me if I'm taking the wrong path here, but I think I have a way of understanding the money, the business part of a zoo and the animals themselves. Because it's probably like anything else. If you're not making any money, you can't provide for the best circumstances, not only for the animals, but also for the guests, right? So there has to be some kind of a balance, right?
Absolutely. You need to make sure that you can make enough money to not only, because a nonprofit organization like San Diego Zoo, the money that you make goes back into the business, and that's how you keep it going. But the business goes beyond that, beyond just helping the animals that are in the zoo. It goes around the world to helping animals that need help because their populations are in trouble.
So when my son is now 33, he'll be 33. When he was a little boy, he had this video game. I can't remember what system it was, but it was a San Diego Zoo game, and it wasn't a game really, but it was just a way to explore the zoo, and it was very primitive by today's standards, but it was really cool because it helped him see the animals that he might not have seen otherwise, and probably broadened his awareness of how we treat animals. And now I'm wondering if maybe that was a fundraiser for you guys. That would have been 20 something years ago now.
I think are you talking about the one that was online?
No, this was a disc. I think it was. I don't know if it was PlayStation or what it was.
I do remember there being like a build the zoo kind of game, but I don't remember that being from the San Diego Zoo. But it does, something like that does help expand people's understanding, like you said, of not only that the animals are there, but how they're taken care of and what goes into that, because it's such a complicated thing.
Well, you talk about the three key things that any business has to have: the value, the mission, and the vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. Was there more to that, Robin?
You had no. That was it. That was my statement. I was impressed with how you were able to block everything into those three categories.
Yeah, I think those are the three things that really help any business, whether it's a zoo or whether it's a for-profit or a nonprofit, really helps them figure out what they need to hang on to and what they can expand into in the future. And if you have your values, which is sort of the important things to your organization, the things that really matter to you, and you have your mission, which is basically why you do what you do and how you do it, then you can really say, okay, those are the things we're going to keep, and now we're going to look to the future and imagine what kind of future we want, and look at the trade-offs and imagine all the different ways that you could proceed into the future, and then that's your vision. And once you have an amazing vision, then you can really move forward.
And you also bring on board facilitators.
Yes, that's something that was pretty powerful in our process, is that we made sure that facilitators were available in a lot of the different meetings that led up to our strategic plan and then in the strategic planning process. And it really helps the people that need to make the decisions to be able to concentrate on the problem and not try to lead a meeting and come up with the answer. And it even became the way that we solved the conservation problems that we solved.
Okay, so the plan is called The Call, and that's also the title of the book, The Call. So tell us about that, and how did that come into being, and what changes did it enable?
So The Call, it was a really big transformation for San Diego Zoo. It actually turned us into an organization that is a conservation organization that does conservation work around the world and also runs 2 zoos. But that was really flipping our mission on its head, because it had before been, we have a zoo and we have a safari park and we also do some conservation work. So really flipped our paradigm and said, we're about conservation, and zoos are one way that we're making that play out because of that connection with animals.
Oh, really? So you kind of redefined your mission.
Absolutely, yeah. We redefined the entire approach that we had to helping wildlife around the world, and it was a huge change for an organization that was over 100 years old.
Wow. So if I was sitting in that board meeting and I was a pessimist, I might say that sounds like we're biting off more than we can chew. Did you have some pushback?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Before we came up with The Call, the previous strategic plan was something where we tried to do that, and we realized we weren't ready. We weren't, you're right. People pushed back and said, well, how are we going to support ourselves? That's not how we make our money, and we have to make money in order to help the animals, like you said. So it was really a few years before that of preparing for getting ourselves in the position so that we could enact The Call. And but a strategic plan helped us with that as well. So it was really a series of things that we had to do to get into that position, and then once we were there, then it just took off.
You also had to advocate to say no.
Yes, that's one of the tricky things about a vision, or one of the great things, it depends on how you look at it, about a vision is it tells you what you're going to do, and then you have to be able to say no to those things that don't align with it. The more you can do that, the more you're going to accomplish, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. So we did a lot of work to teach the employees at San Diego Zoo Global how they could say no to things that were activities that didn't relate to our vision.
So while the San Diego Zoo still exists, San Diego Zoo Global is the parent name, I guess you might say, for the zoo and the safari park and all that?
That's right. That it became the zoo, the safari park, all this international conservation work, and as well as several other efforts that fit under that. but they're all aimed towards leading the fight against extinction.
So do you work with, in order to be part of the global scene, do you work with elected officials? Do you lobby for laws? And in part two to that, how would you do that in other countries that you're an American, so you would obviously would make sense to go to Washington, D.C., but what would you do with the rest of the world?
So it comes back to that facilitating piece. So San Diego Zoo Global can't do all the conservation work themselves, but what they know is that they can facilitate bringing the right people together. So let's say, like Kenya, for example, there's a lot of different kinds of wildlife wildlife conservation issues in Kenya. So San Diego Zoo Global goes over there, brings together all the different partners who need to work together, including different organizations and when applicable, the government. And they work together, but the facilitation is what San Diego Zoo Global is so good at.
How do you teach people, especially adults, to be aware of their surroundings and not approach the animals in the wild? I mean, we have a Silver Springs State Park right here, and there are alligators all over the place, and they'll come up and sunbathe on the grass itself. Well, there was years ago when I was there with my folks, there was a fella there, and he was trying to encourage his little girl to get close so he can get a better picture.
Oh man!
Because they're not enclosed, it's a wild park.
And I think that's one thing that zoos and aquariums are really good at doing, is explaining to people that, that wild animals are wild and that we need to respect that, and we need to be able to give them their space to be wild.
Now, we have people that we've known in our state that have had to have exotic pet licenses, and then when they get tired of the pets, they give them to these facilities to raise them for the rest of their lives because they can't be out in the wild and feed themselves and defend themselves. What do you say to the people that want to have these exotic pets and to acquire the licenses?
Well, I think any wild animal is going to be is better off in a situation that's as natural for them as possible. And most people, it's hard for them to keep their pets in a situation that approaches the wilderness. So that's why they mostly would have a hard time doing that. So a zoo or some other natural setting is a better place for people to be able to take their pets.
So I want to go back to the facilitator part of what you talked about, and I want to ask, in Disney World here in Florida, we have this huge park called, what's it called, Animal Kingdom?
Yes.
So I don't think they would need a facilitator, would they? Because it's here. I mean, but if it's, so how, okay, so let's say they do. How would you work with them, or how would they work with you to, I don't know, to improve the bottom line or to improve the enclosures for the animals?
So what we would work on with them, for one thing, I should say that all zoos in a better association of zoos and aquarium zoos, they're all working together as it is to make sure that the populations of animals that are endangered are being managed to the best way they can so that they can keep populating zoos. But they would work together on, for instance, on projects where they would want to perhaps do conservation work, and they would look at conservation projects together so that they could find the best solution.
Oh, okay.
So that they'd be working on it together, and then they'd be working on it with other organizations who might be not zoos or aquariums, but other conservation organizations, other wildlife advocacy organizations, that kind of thing.
So Robin mentioned something here. There was a story in South Africa, I think there was some kind of an animal sanctuary where a poacher went in to kill a rhino, I think, right?
Mm-hmm,
Did you see this story like last week?
Yeah, that was something.
And elephants killed the poacher, and then lions ate him. Did you happen to hear that story?
Yeah, I did see that story.
So
that was something, wasn't it?
So does that place that he went into, he shouldn't have been in, do you guys work, does the San Diego Zoo Global work with them, or could they?
I don't know if they work with that specific wildlife park, but it's more that they work with the things in different countries. They work on different projects with different partners.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a lot of, there's so many wildlife parks and so many different partners. But for instance, they have over 380 partners around the world that are working on conservation projects with them. And there's 45 countries where they have research projects and 5 different specific conservation field stations. So there's a lot of work going on. There's so many different organizations to work with and so many governmental partners. And it's just that it's a continually expanding list of partners.
I think we're intrigued by the animal aspect of where this comes from, but I want the listeners to know, in order to be fair to the book, I want you to know that this is really a business advice book. One of the things you write in the book is the call, which you call the program that helped save the zoo. The call helped us to bring focus to our organization and unity of purpose to our board, staff, and volunteers. So that that applies to every business.
Yes, and that's one of the things that's really hard for any business, is to make sure that everybody who works there and every volunteer understands their part of the solution. So, like, if you go to San Diego Zoo and you're renting a stroller, well, the person who's renting you the stroller can tell you what the organization's vision is for the future and how renting you that stroller helps you to go out and form that lifelong bond with animals that's so important to how you're going to view wildlife in the future. So it's that kind of thing that really is where the call really helps move everything forward.
And when a person does go to the zoos and the animal sanctuaries, there are usually telltale signs to the visitor itself if these animals are really being cared for well or not.
Yeah, interestingly, it's not always that apparent. Sometimes what looks to us like an animal is being cared for well is based on how we would want to be cared for, but sometimes what that particular animal wants is to be in a tiny little dark crevice because that's what that animal prefers. So it's not always that clear cut to know what's best for that particular animal. And that's why a lot of scientists have to be involved in coming up with the right habitat to mimic the wild.
And when you do create those kinds of habitats and you want to have like panda bears and tigers, how far apart are the fences of those habitats, and do they ever really notice the other animal next to them?
And that's something that for each animal we need experts to tell us, because every animal is different. And yeah, they do notice each other, and sometimes that helps them with feeling like they are having their natural experience, because the other animals nearby are they're smelling them and they're seeing them, and that's what they'd be doing in the wild. So in the best zoos, that's something that's being taken into account with every single enclosure.
But they wouldn't be eating them.
Right.
In the back of the book, there's a photo of you, and you're with 2 cats. What are those? Leopards? What are they?
They're cheetahs. They're baby cheetahs.
Cheetahs.
They don't look like babies because they're kind of they're big and gangly, but they're still babies, and they were running around playing while I was in there. It was really fun.
Oh my gosh! So were you that close? And I mean, you're with them. You're not like behind a gate or anything. Is that possible? Like when these animals became full grown, could you still do that?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I don't think so. I think it would depend on what kind of training they had and whether or not they were animal ambassadors that were used to people, or whether they were animals that are in a wild setting.
Okay.
Particular ones were young.
Larry finds these live webcams in different places, and then he'll share them with me. And I think that is absolutely amazing that we can see the animals in their natural habitats and just observe them without disrupting that habitat.
Absolutely. Isn't that great that you can look at them and be able to enjoy them and feel that bond with them, but you're not interrupting their natural wild lives.
So I have a question for you specifically about who I should give the book to, and if you're listening, anybody can call and ask for it. But I'm just curious. We have two animal rescue organizations that I know of in our community.
Mm-hmm.
One is called EARS, which stands for Endangered Animal Rescue Sanctuary, and the other one is called
the Forest Rescue
Service or something. Sanctuary, yeah. And I think there's one in Williston where they have elephants or something.
Yeah,
right?
they have the elephants up there.
So while I think the book probably would help all business people with a little bit of understanding about how to maybe streamline or make the business model a little bit more powerful, would this specifically help those organizations with their efforts to raise money? Because it's always a struggle for them. They're always... Like they just had this amazing, like a car show, and people will come out and see the cars, and people pay, I guess, $10 to show their car, and that's how they raise money. Would this help them?
Yeah, I think it would help any organization, and particularly those nonprofits that are always trying to get money because they have a good cause, but it's difficult to get people to understand how they can help that good cause. And so focusing their efforts is really what this book is about. It would be great for them, but it would also be great for any organization or even individual people who are trying to figure out how to focus their efforts and make a change.
And since you are in Phoenix today, do you travel to other parts of the country if organizations or groups need to have your expertise?
Yes. Work with a lot of different organizations.
Oh, excellent.
The book is a really attractive book, by the way.
Yeah,
I know you're not supposed to comment on the cover, but this is a pretty book, right?
I'm with you there. Lori Sandstrom designed that cover, and it gets so many compliments. That's usually the first thing people say to me is, "That is a beautiful book."
I know. And then we're making that faux pas of talking about the cover, but it just is. It just happens to be one of the ones that is worth mentioning.
It's gorgeous.
Beth, thank you. So, what are you doing now? You're not with the zoo anymore.
Right. Well, I'm consulting with different organizations to help them with their strategic plans, and still working with a lot of wildlife organizations, but now branching off into others as well.
How are we doing as a planet? Are we starting to fix the problems? Because here in Florida, the flamingo is not the state bird, really. I think it's the mockingbird. But but everybody has a plastic flamingo, and from what I understand, they used to be all over the place, and then we hunted them almost to extinction. I guess because of the feathers, I think.
Right, the feathers for fashion.
So it's a shame. I mean, we would have flamingos everywhere if that hadn't happened. Are we improving those behaviors?
I think everybody's awareness of a lot of those behaviors is going up, and in individual species cases, there's a lot of really good success. I think overall, there's an extinction problem around the world, and that's something that it's going to take a lot of work on the part of everyone to make that better.
Let me give the book away. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this? Are you there? Hello?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, I don't hear anybody.
No.
Okay. They'll call back. Beth, thank you for what you're doing. You're an inspiration to all of us, and there's a certain mystery about the different elements that have to come together in order for a business to be successful.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me, Larry. It's really fun to talk about because it's something that really means a lot to me and represents a lot of work on the part of San Diego Zoo Global to move forward.
And to be honest, it sounds like you do a lot, so I don't know how you found time to write a book, but thank you for doing that.
Thanks. It was a labor of love.
All right, and I do see somebody on the line, so hang on there, whoever's there. Robin will talk to you in just a bit. Let me push this button and move to commercials. Good. Thank you so much, Beth. We'll be right back.
Tired of looking at stained carpets, dirty tile, or grout? Call Silverback Restoration, 414-5312. Make your flooring look great again. Stains, pet odors, allergies. Call Silverback Restoration, 414-5312. From serving our country to serving our community. Silverback Restoration, 414-5312. Residential and commercial. Their work is guaranteed along with your satisfaction. Check their website, silverbackrestoration.com.
Visit Southeastern Trailers today. We have new and used enclosed cargo and open utility trailers, along with built-to-order trailers. We service all brands of cargo and utility trailers, installation of hitches, wiring and electric brake controls, and installation of trailer accessories, with locations in Ocala and Ormond Beach to serve all of Central Florida. Call 1-888-622-1816. Again, that's 1-888-622-1816.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. President Trump on Twitter this morning accused